It's 11:47 at night. Your phone lights up with a text from your sister. Can you call me tomorrow? No context, and your stomach drops before you've even finished reading it. By the time you set the phone down, you've already lived through 3 different versions of tomorrow's phone call, and in every single one of them, something is wrong. But psychology tells a completely different story about what just happened in your body. There's a very specific reason your mind does this, not with every person and not by accident, but with a consistency that says something real about how your nervous system was built. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why. Your brain didn't invent this pattern out of nowhere. It's running something researchers call the negativity bias, a wiring quirk where threatening information gets processed faster, weighted heavier, and remembered longer than good information ever does. Psychologists have actually measured how lopsided this is. Studies on emotional balance have found that it takes roughly 3 to 5 positive experiences just to offset the emotional weight of one negative one. Not because good things matter less to you, but because your nervous system was never built to weigh them equally in the first place. For most of human history, this made complete sense. Missing a piece of good news cost you nothing. Missing a warning sign could cost you everything. So somewhere in your nervous system, a rule got written a long time ago. Scan for danger first, celebrate later, if there's anything left to celebrate. And here's the part that doesn't get said enough. This isn't a flaw in your thinking. It's a system doing exactly what it was built to do. But that raises a stranger question. If this bias is universal, if every human brain leans this way, why does it feel so much louder in you than in the people around you who seem to take an unclear text message and just wait? The answer isn't about how threatening the world actually is. It's about what your nervous system learned to expect from it. Somewhere along the way, and this doesn't have to be one dramatic event, it's often just years of ordinary unpredictability. Your system ran the numbers on how often "I don't know what's coming" turned out fine versus how often it didn't. And it built a rule from that math. Assume the bad outcome first. If you're right, you're already braced. If you're wrong, at least you weren't caught off guard. This is what psychologists call defensive pessimism, and it's not the opposite of hope. It's a strategy. A quiet, exhausting form of control, built by a mind that decided the safest place to stand is the one where nothing can surprise you. It shows up in more places than a late-night text. It's the version of you that plans for the job rejection before the interview is even scheduled. The one who mentally drafts the "it's okay, I understand" response before the test results even come back. The one who, the moment a manager says, "Can we talk?" has already imagined being let go 3 days before the meeting is actually about a schedule change. Even something as small as a friend leaving your message on read gets run through the same machinery. 10 minutes of silence becomes evidence. 20 minutes becomes a verdict. By the time they finally reply with nothing more than "Hey, sorry, was driving," you've already grieved a friendship that was never actually in danger. And this isn't limited to the big, obvious moments either. It's just as present in the small ones. The pause before opening an email from a client, the half-second hesitation before checking a bank balance, the way a simple "we need to talk" can detonate a dozen imagined conversations before anyone said another word. But here's what makes this strategy so expensive, and it has almost nothing to do with expecting bad news itself. Here's the part that changes how this whole thing reads, though. Defensive pessimism doesn't run on fear of the bad outcome itself. It runs on fear of being unprepared for it. Your brain isn't afraid of bad news. It's afraid of what happens to you in the 3 seconds before you're ready for it. Which means the ache you feel isn't really about your sister's text at all. There's a cost to running this system, though, and it's not the one you'd expect. Your body doesn't know the difference between an imagined threat and a real one. When you spend 4 hours predicting a phone call that turns out to be about weekend plans, your nervous system has already spent 4 hours in a low-grade version of the same stress response it would use for an actual emergency: elevated cortisol, a body quietly bracing, a mind that never fully exhales. You can usually find it if you check. The shoulders pulled up slightly higher than they need to be. The breath that stays shallow and high in the chest instead of dropping low into the stomach. A jaw that's been faintly clenched for an hour without you ever deciding to clench it. None of that is random. It's a body running a threat response program for a threat that, so far, only exists in a text message. And here's what nobody tells you about that part. The exhaustion you feel by the end of most days isn't from what actually happened to you. It's from how many futures you lived through that never happened at all. That's the quiet tax defensive pessimism charges. Not the disappointment, the constant readiness for disappointment, whether or not it ever shows up. But even that isn't the deepest layer of this. There's one more piece, and it's the one that reframes everything you just read. If this system runs on learned math, if it was built by counting how often uncertainty turned out badly, then somewhere, your nervous system was doing that counting under conditions that taught it the wrong number was safer to assume. Maybe it was a household where calm moods could flip without warning, where a parent's tone at the door told you more about the evening ahead than anything they actually said. Maybe it was one period of your life where bad news really did keep arriving unannounced: a diagnosis, a job loss, a phone call that changed everything, and your mind adapted the only way it knew how, by refusing to be unannounced again. Maybe it wasn't even one clear thing, just enough years of not being able to predict what you were walking into. Whatever it was, your nervous system didn't malfunction. It adapted perfectly to the environment that built it. It just never got the memo that the environment changed. And that's the layer that changes everything you thought you understood so far. This isn't a personality flaw you need to fix. It's a survival adaptation that's still running its original programming in a life that mostly doesn't need it anymore. You were never a pessimist. You were never someone who can't just relax. You were a nervous system that learned, honestly and painfully, that being ready mattered more than being calm, and it's still keeping that promise, long after the danger that taught it is gone. You are not broken. You were built to survive something, and you did. Which part felt most familiar, expecting the worst, constantly bracing, or realizing where that expectation came from? Drop it in the comments below.